Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
A story for you /x/. I live in South Africa. A couple of times a year I head into the Karoo semi-desert region to get away from it all. I've been doing this for several years. The Karoo has unusually clear night skies due to lack of light pollution and large wilderness areas. While I'm at my retreat, I enjoy spending my evenings looking up at the incredible selection of stars. As a result of this, I have seen some odd things happen in outer space. Most notably, I often see fast-moving bright lights that make abrupt changes of direction, with no apparent loss of momentum. Some of these can cross the horizon end to end in about a minute. I have seen these lights enter the atmosphere with a bright flare, and then start darting around. I have told all my friends about it, and none of them believed me. So I took two of them out there and showed it to them. And we ended up seeing so many of these things in a single evening that we lost count of them. I have no idea what I am looking at, but they don't seem to be satellites with their stable trajectories. There's a lot of activity up there, and I'd like to know if any of you can give me some non-tinfoil ideas of what I am looking at.
Got one from a few years back. Starts off lame but gets pretty interesting. Be me, 17-year-old social reject from South Africa. Go to fancy-ass school. Hate everyone there, they hate me, don't give a damn. Go on annual class camp in a woods. Bunch of activities, including an overnight hike where you leave at 8 p.m. Hike for about 4 hours, then sleep in the bush. My group's turn to go on a night hike. Walk for about 2 hours through the bush, really shitty night, wind and drizzle. Kids telling spoopy stories and guides trying to jump scare us. Finally come to this huge open field surrounded by forest. Field is full of white flowers. These flowers, I shit you not, glow in the dark like a very dim light bulb. Guides don't know what they are, but they seem to grow all over that area. Never seen anything like it since. Weird smell in the air, like strong ozone. Anyway, we crossed the too spooky field into a pine forest. Smell grows stronger. I start lagging behind, enjoying the quiet, always loved pine forests. Feel like I'm being watched. Turn to look into the trees. See a large, rounded black shape about 20 meters away, like a big rock. Large, rounded black shape moves. Spooky, scary skeletons. MP3. Start walking faster. Don't want to get freaked out by shadows, but I've lagged quite far behind. The thing stands up on two legs. By its size and its center of balance, it looked almost like a bear standing on two legs. I could tell that shit wasn't human. Screw this, I'm running. The thing turns its head towards me. Never saw its face or even its eyes, but I did see two forked deer antlers. By the time I get to the other kids, it's gone. Walk at the front of the group for the rest of the night. Thought it might have been one of the guides at first, but that thing was much bigger than them, and they were both with the group the whole time. Now I'd like to interrupt here and remind you that before you say it was a bear or a deer standing on two legs, neither of those things live in South Africa. We don't have anything around here that remotely matches the description. That's it for the main story, but afterwards there are a few odd and possibly related incidents that wrap it up. Anyway, finally get to the place where we're supposed to sleep. There's a huge shelter there, basically a big hole covered by a framework of branches which was then packed with soil, with various plants and flowers growing in the soil. Ask the guides if they built it because this thing is pretty impressive. They say it was there when they started working at the camp and they don't know where it came from. 3 jocks decide they're sleeping in the shelter. All the girls complain, saying that they should sleep in there. Feminism, whatever, jocks don't care. Lay out my sleeping bag and try to sleep. Can't sleep. Keep thinking the creature I saw will come for me. During the night, I noticed that the jocks have left the shelter and are sleeping outside in the rain. Morning finally comes. Jocks visibly shaken don't talk much. Ask them what happened and why they left the shelter. Get an answer along the lines of "fuck off, man." Okay.jpg. Walk back to the main camp. When we pass through the field with the white flowers, I notice the smell of ozone is gone. And here's the strange thing. The field looks completely wrecked. All the flowers have been torn up and trampled. What appears to be a large round footprints everywhere. None of them were clear. It was like something was trying to hide them. From what I could make out, though, they were smaller than a cow's but bigger than any other grazing animal. I know the area, and there's no farms or livestock of any kind for miles. I never did find out what scared the jocks. One day, I'd like to go back there and find that thing.
Live in South Africa. Friend of mine has a farm inside the Kruger National Park. Basically no fences between the park and farmhouse. Old-ass farmhouse, no electricity, no running water. Awesomely old school. Anyway, at the place with a couple of my friends, always had a creepy feeling about the main house for some reason. Me and the guys are at the place having a couple of days before the chicks come through. Night before the girls get there, I have to sleep in the main house for some reason. We still don't know why I had to sleep there alone, but anyway. Wake up at some hour after midnight, with a very loud scratching sound coming from the door right next to the bed, and the small table next to the bed was shaking violently. I freak out, and as soon as I'm upright, the sounds immediately stop. As I fall asleep again, the sound starts up again and again. As I get up, the sound stops. Eventually, I figure out it's a rat trying to scratch its way through the door, chase it away, and try to sleep again. Then suddenly something that freaked me out started happening. All the windows in the house are closed and have metal gauze behind them, one the inside, to keep mosquitoes, etc. out during the summer when the windows are open. There are about 8 windows like that in this room. The sound I heard, and it's the only way I could recreate it, was like someone dragging their fingernails across the metal gauze. First at the window on my left, 1, 2, 3 scratches, then the next window immediately after 1, 2, 3 scratches, and so on. As soon as it reached the farthest window in, would be right back at the nearest almost instantly, each time happening faster and louder. By the 4th or 5th round, the adrenaline was pumping like never before. I decided to shout, "Hey!" as loud as I could, and the sound immediately stopped. I was upright in the bed by this time, my legs feeling like jelly eyes, big and sweating like a bastard. I will go on now, not long. As I said, dead quiet, adrenaline pumping hard. Now the bedroom is right by the kitchen and there's a wall with windows separating the two. There was an oil lamp left burning in the kitchen, which you could see through the window and the curtains. I'm sitting there watching the light like a hawk, thinking it's my buddies trying to scare the shit out of me. Sitting for quite some time, then all of a sudden a loud bang in the kitchen. The only way to describe the sound is like someone taking a breadboard and throwing it on the ground as hard as possible. Instantly, I'm up running across the room to the kitchen to get these oaks in action and beat someone shitless. Couldn't have been more than 2 seconds into the kitchen and everything is where it should be. The doors are screen doors and make a hell of a racket when they open. Everything was in place. Perfectly so. Suddenly, I see a torch from where the other guys were sleeping, separate from the main house. I run across the dark, in the bush where there are literally lions and leopards and hyena on a daily basis. No torch running to the light. My buddy asks WTF, I say well done, etc., you got me, etc., etc. He's in his underwear without his teeth and saying he heard screaming. Going to the other 2 buddies' rooms, they took sleeping pills and passed out. I ask my one buddy how long we have been sleeping for. He says about 15 minutes. This thing was terrorizing me for at least an hour. I noped out of the main house and slept on the floor. I still refuse to sleep in the main house. More of a nope story, I know. But I've been in situations where time slows, and this was very, very different. Almost felt as if you're underwater, pressure, and the silence was deafening. The hair on my arms is standing up. Sorry if it doesn't fit in, but I had to share.
First time greentexting, so please don't hate me. Be me, 9-year-old Vortrekker in South Africa. Dad is an old Angola vet and often tells me stories of the Bush War. Dad clearly has PTSD, something about his tank buddies dying. As a result, he drinks a lot. Once I asked him about it around a campfire, but he just looked into the fire and ignored me while sipping his brandy. Getting off topic, Grandpa had a farm in Thabazimbi in the Waterberg mountain range, would often hunt there, and at my age, the biggest predator I've seen there was a leopard and the occasional lion in the parks. That was, of course, before the one hunting trip. Dad and I were camping about 5 kilometers from the main farm out in the fields. We hadn't seen much in the way of impala or kudu, so we just sort of camped and had a chat about school. I remember packing away the 303 in the tent before coming outside again to join my dad for some sausages. Then this smell hits us. Before you say blood and copper, it smelled musky, kind of like a really big wet badger mixed with the smell of a civet cat. If you've been to Africa and smelled a civet cat, you'd know what I mean, since they eat chickens and shit. My dad handed me his revolver and grabbed his torch. My dad was always eager to let me shoot. Maybe he feared an uprising by the locals. Looking at South Africa now, maybe he was right to teach me. We couldn't see shit in the fields, but since civet cats are small, we didn't expect anything out of the ordinary or were spooked in any way. After about 20 minutes of searching, we gave up and sat back down. My dad looked uneasy, slightly more than usual now that I think of it. I can't remember much from after that, but what happened later that night messed me up. I remember waking up in the tent. The smell was now potent, like the civet cat was sleeping in the tent with us. There's this sniffing and shuffling outside. I turn to my dad and he's already in the prone with the 303. I can hear something outside licking the grease from the sausages off my dad's pan. My dad slowly slides the bolt of the 303 shut and instantly it stops. The hair on my neck starts standing up because I knew it discovered us. I at first thought it was a leopard, but the way my dad just froze in place made me realize that he didn't know what it was. Then I hear the grass move slightly as if whatever is outside is coming to investigate. I can faintly make out 4 feet from the walk pattern. The way it crunches the grass told me that this thing is heavy. My dad and I slowly got to our feet from the sleeping bags and I took a peek through the gauze of the tent. In the moonlight I see it, not 4 meters from the tent. It looked like a hyena, but around double the size, matted fur and longer legs. As it got closer, I saw patches of skin torn to hell like a reanimated dead lion-hyena cross. The fear gripped me right there. I wanted to run and cry and shit my Springbok underpants. I bent down to hide, but I think it confirmed the thing's suspicion because this thing starts making a low moan. Think of that low, gargled, blood-and-throat moan an ISIS victim makes after he's been beheaded. It lifted its head between the tent flaps to meet my dad's 303. I remember my ears ringing from the shot inside the tent. Don't remember much from after that, but my dad and I made it back to the farmhouse. I wasn't feeling well after that, so my dad decided to cut the trip short so I can get to a therapist or something. Guess he didn't want me to become an emotional fuck-up like him. On our way back to Pretoria, there was this hitchhiker, a white Afrikaans guy with a leather bag. This being the early 2000s, my dad offered him a lift. He gets in and I scoot over the gearbox. The guy says he's on his way to Bloemfontein. His dad died last night and he basically came to say goodbye. He picked up something to remind him of his dad while he's here, Bloemfontein being all the way in the Free State and all. As he talks, I get a whiff of this guy's breath. Imagine what an elite or journalist would smell like after a day in the African sun and they peel off the fake skin from their reptile faces. This guy asks me if I want to see what he got from his dad. Yeah, sure. He zips open the leather bag between his legs and almost immediately I smell that same smell from last night. He pulls out an animal ear from between his clothes. It had this dark brown color to it and pitch black spots. The thing is the size of my thigh. My dad hits the brakes and tells him to get out. The guy looks right in my dad's eyes and gets out slowly, not breaking eye contact. We drove off and I looked back through the window. My dad told me not to look, but in that brief moment I saw him still looking at my dad. I'm now 28 and I eventually had a chat-up moment and asked my dad about that encounter, but he sometimes pretends not to hear me or that he has no idea what I'm talking about. A few years ago, I was talking to my housekeeper about the Tokoloshe, and she was always smiling when we talked about it, so I thought I would mention this encounter, and her face looked like dread itself. In Afrikaans, which I've never heard her speak before, she basically said, "They are called Bultungin, don't talk about them, they know when you do."
Gonna post a story of some shit that's happened to me. Live in South Africa. This happened back when I was 16. The local church organized a youth camp at a place called Dundee, a farm town in South Africa. We're going to be staying on a farm that gets used for school excursions and shit like that. We get there on Sunday night and everyone is pumped for a good time. Some kids from the local area come to camp with us along with a few kids from other big cities. There's like 62 campers. Girl and boys get split, so no funky business. Us guys spend the night getting to know each other and telling funny stories. Eventually, we start telling stories trying to scare the shit out of each other. My one bro tells the guys about the Bloody Mary legend. The local kids are in a pretty remote area, so this creeps the hell out of them and laughs about it. Back then, it was about the time Harry Potter was popular, and being the dweeb that I was, I somehow ended up trying to learn Parseltongue. I knew a little Latin from some of the hymns, so I missed random words and hissed and scared the shit out of everyone. Some of them got so mad they decided to sleep. Then my one bro tells this story about a South African urban legend called the Tokoloshe. Apparently, it's this guy who basically wanders around haunting people. Once he starts haunting you, he never leaves you alone. He'll come up to you in the middle of the night and stare at you sleep for 3 nights in a row. If you wake up, he kills you. Accounts on how you die vary from him taking your soul to cutting out your heart. Now, I might be a black guy in South Africa, but I was raised by my white dad and a black mom who was raised by her Portuguese grandma. I have little knowledge about South African folklore. I laugh it off, but it seems everyone but me knows about the Tokoloshe, and they are visibly creeped out. We all go to bed right then. The next day, some of the guys tell their girlfriends about what we did that night, and it seems the girls did something similar. We get split into groups of 4 girls, 4 boys. We get told we're going to be doing some activities, and we have to compete against each other. Fuck that. We just want to have fun. That afternoon, my bro needs the restroom, and the closest one has no working lights. He goes in and starts doing his business. I wait 3 minutes and then decide to prank him. I turn the water on in one of the basins and go to the door and scream Bloody Mary twice. Bro flips his shit and runs out pants down, and I start laughing at him. I was an asshole. He laughs it off and goes back to finish, but I do this to him 3 more times. I was a real asshole. He won't go with me afterwards anymore. That evening, we're all sitting around a campfire and telling more stories. I do the Parseltongue thing again and scare some of the girls. We laugh. One of the counselors tells us a story about the Tokoloshe and claims that some farm workers living nearby had died because of him recently. We call bullshit. He takes us to a fenced clearing about 100 meters from the dorms, and there are graves there. We see 4 graves that look new. We nope out of the and collectively decide to go to bed. The next morning, some of the girls complained that I was crawling around their ceiling, my Parseltongue impersonation, but I was legitimately asleep, and the counselor lets them know that there is no space in the ceiling to crawl around, and it's impossible to get from the boys' dorm to the girls' dorm because you have to go through the counselors' rooms. Then someone asks, if it wasn't Rick, then who was it? We're all starting to freak out. That whole day we're all just joking about it, but the local kids don't want to talk about what's happening. But finally, one of them tells us that this is how some of the Tokoloshe stories go. Then he asks if any of us have messed with any type of ritual. I tell them that I did the Bloody Mary thing but never finished it, and kept swapping it out with Biggie Smalls and some other stuff just as a joke. He says it might have had an effect, but doubts it. We get told that we have to pack our sleeping gear because we're going to move locations after climbing a large hill the next day. That night, one of the guys wakes up feeling cold and wants to close the window, but none of the windows are open. He looks out and sees a shadow moving near the small cemetery. He flips his shit and wakes us up. We see the shadow moving around and nopes so hard we actually start praying. I'm not religious, but I prayed like a choir boy. The shadow moves in the woods, and we basically huddle till morning. We were so scared we were pissing in buckets so we wouldn't have to go to the restrooms. Morning finally comes, and nobody wants to talk. I ask one of the girls why they are so quiet, and it seems they've been hearing the Parseltongue-like voice. We told them about the shadow, and it seems they heard the voices around 1:26 till 2:56. We saw the shadow at 3:05, and it left at 3:13. We're all shitting ourselves but start chilling out because we remember we're moving camp locations. We're going to ride a tractor pulling a bus-like trailer to the base of the hill, but it breaks down halfway there. We leave it and walk the rest of the way. We see the tractor heading back and realize it was a prank to make us walk and stop being lazy. Screw it, we just want to get this over with and go back so we can move. The hill takes so much longer to climb than we expected, but we push on. It takes 7 hours for the whole group to make it. At the top, there are tents set up. Our sleep gear is there. They tell us that we're going to spend the night there. We want to nope all the way home, but it's dark and cold. Even if we get back, there's nowhere else to go. A few of the guys get together and come up with a shit hits the fan plan. We decide that we're going to grab girls from our group and bail all the way downhill on our own. Screw the rest of the group. Planning it out calms us down, and we even start joking around again. We're all chilled after being there a few hours and sitting around a campfire. One of the camp cooks tells us that his son died recently. We ask about it, and it turns out his son is one of the people who was allegedly killed by the Tokoloshe. Well, so much for calming down. We decided that going to bed is the best way to go. We go to bed at 9. Like 1 a.m., 3 of us wake up and it's super cold. I look up and realize that I'm not in the tent. My cushion, sleeping bag, and me are out in the open. Ha ha ha, real funny, guys. We move our stuff back into the tent, but the other guys have no idea why we're outside. We go back to sleep, but an hour later the same thing happens. But this time there are 7 of us, including girls outside. I realize that it's only us who made the SHTF plan. We told no one, not even the girl we were going to save. WTF. As we're taking our stuff back in, we see a shadow moving a girl out of her tent. I want to nope out of there, but I can't move. My bro starts yelling, and that makes me start yelling too. The girl wakes up and screams. The shadow ran into the woods. Counselors decide to call for transport so we can leave, but the tractor is broken for real now. One of my bros asks about the plan, but I tell him that the plan blows. Why would we risk going off by ourselves into the dark? Besides, things aren't at shit hit the fan yet. We decide to arm ourselves with sticks and rocks. No one has any weapons. We are all too scared to sleep. We see a shadow moving in the distance, but it didn't come closer than that. We also hear the parcel tongue-like voice till near dawn. At first light, we pack up in silence and nope our way down to base camp. Call the guy who brought us here and tell him we all want to go home. That shadow was the closest thing to something /X/ I'd ever seen. It kept changing, and for some reason I have trouble recalling what its face looked like. I later heard that those who see a Tokoloshe never remember its face, just a shadow. I avoid dark alleys and never go in the woods. I don't know what it was, but I don't want to find out. Why did it take us out the tents? Why just us who'd come up with the plan for the girls we were going to save?
I was about 12 years old when this took place. My family moved into a 13-story apartment building. We lived on the 4th floor overlooking normal suburban housing in South Africa. From my room, I could see my friend's house not so far off and to the left of our building. And to the right of my friend's house was a rather huge, a couple of hectares field of knee-high grass that went over a hill. The building we stayed in was at the peak almost of said hill. Hopefully you get an idea of the area. So this friend, I'll call him Jay, a few months after we initially met, told me about this thing that he had seen and heard in the field from his house late at night, or in the early mornings about 3 or 4 a.m. when he was preparing to go fishing for the day. And that a few years before I moved there, one of the neighbors actually went out with his shotgun one such evening and shot in the general direction of this thing. He described it to me as just seeing the red eyes and a tall dark mass in the shape of a werewolf standing on 2 feet. Notable is that this field was not illuminated as the rest of town, and only partially when there was a full moon, even from my vantage point in my room. I took this with a grain of salt for certain, and had a normal kid mentality of fancying the idea of spooks and scary tales. One evening, though, I was in my room struggling to fall asleep, lights off and all. Then I heard a rather odd growl, howl or whatever from the direction of the field. So naturally I peeked out my window. Obviously, my imagination kicked in, and I thought I saw something red moving around, but as a blur. The distance from my window to the crest of the hill was about 300 meters. I just brushed it off as silly mind tricks. A few months go by and I'm about to join Jay on a fishing trip. We wake up at 3 in the morning and have to start packing and loading all the equipment and so forth. Now from his house there were 2 more houses to the right. Then the field started. The street of his house was adjacent to the grounds of the building I stayed in, so I could see my room window standing in his yard. We started hearing noises coming from the said field and proceeded to investigate without leaving the yard. From his house, we could see about 200 meters away into the field 2 red specks staying really still. The thing is, when one looked at it, it seemed to blur or fade, meaning you had to look away and quickly back again to see it. These specks, or eyes as we deemed it, was about 2 meters above the ground, if not more, as at that distance one's judgment can be a bit off. The next moment we saw the eyes darting away. We could barely make out the body features of whatever eyes it was, just a tall black mass moving at an alarming pace back behind the hill. So we chat about it and just leave it at that, thinking we both just imagined things. We went fishing that day without a hassle or even talked about what we might or might not have seen. So here comes the kicker. The following day, my brother, my friend Jay and I went for a bit of exploring in this massive field. It was a dry spell, so all the grass was brown and we had no rain for a few weeks. Noteworthy is that we found really old arrowheads, rusted and primitive looking, but more like 200 or so years back in that field/hillside. As we are walking along, we near the crested area of the hill or field, and I stumble upon a footprint in the sand. Mind you, this was at a small clearing between the grass that was just sand. This footprint at first looked to be of some kind of animal, but cat-like. So my first reaction was, "Hey guys, look, some lion or leopard got free or something." Then on closer inspection, that all changed. The main cushion was the size of a grown man's palm, with 3 smaller cushions for the toes, and above them 3 triangle indentations that would be for claws. The footprint did not look like whatever this was had been moving too fast, just a quick walk maybe. Now this was the first footprint, big with 3 toes and clearly clawed. The freaky part came when we found 2 more. The direction of the tracks was towards the building I stayed in, but they were at least 3 to 4 meters apart, and there were no prints after or before the ones we found. This was at around 11 in the morning, and 3 of us. My brother, the most skeptical, just went silent. I mean that he did not react or say anything when he saw this, more of a shock reaction or something to that nature. His reaction still gives me uneasy vibes thinking about to this day. Freaks me out more than the actual footprints of whatever that thing was. Now we had no cell phones at that time, and I wish I could have taken pictures. The day is still burned into my memory. We went on exploring some more afterward though. What really got me is that we were so aloof to all of it that we never really talked about what we saw and found that day. It's as if the pure nature of it was too much for our minds to grasp, and I eventually thought it might have been some ostrich footprint. Still, their feet don't look like that, nor are there any damn ostriches living in that place. Well, that's how I tried to reason it out for myself. I've seen a lot of other animal footprints, especially big cats, dogs, etc. But none had that distinct shape or 3-toed thing going on. Whatever it was clearly something unbeknownst to us.
Don't know what to call this. 25 years ago, I moved away from my family who were in Cape Town. I shared an apartment and was on the top floor. One night, I had the most awful nightmare of this beast, a massive, muscular black and brown dog, but bigger and smarter. I awoke when it was next to me, looking at me sleep. It climbed onto my bed and put all of its weight onto my chest. Pinned me down and I was unable to move. It pushed its face right up into mine. I could feel its hot breath against me, and its stiff whiskers scraping against my cheek and mouth. Completely paralyzed and felt fear I had never known before. Will never forget it. When I was able to get out of it and move again, I awoke and had the worst feeling of my life. Felt like something was really wrong. Called my mother at 2 a.m. and discovered that my little brother was sleeping at a friend's house for the first time that he barely knew. Urged my mom to call the parents and find out if he is okay. She argued at first, but then agreed when I just couldn't shake that something really bad was going on and was practically in tears. She called back and said she had contacted the parents and my little bro was okay. Something happened that night or was about to. Fucked if I know what though.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.